the Fireside Chat, where capital meets commerce tech. It's a technology and finance session. This session will be moderated by Jagjit Sareen. He chairs CIEU's chair on climate finance. Plus, he is also global partner at Dalberg Advisors, one of the top names in finance. Jagjit Singh Sareen, Shri Rajat Tandon, President IVCA, Shri Manoj Mittal, MD, Small Industry Development Bank of India, SIDBI, Natasha, co-founder Ankurit Capital, Shri Sanjeev Bikhchandani, he heads InfoEdge. To begin this session, may I request Shri Anil Agarwal ji, member CCI, to give his keynote address. Anil ji, आप माइक लेना चाहते हैं कि बैठ के बोलना चाहते हैं? बैठ के, हाँ, most welcome. जी, I think Sanjeev Bikhchandani ji is on his way. He'll join us during the conversation. Jagjit, you can proceed till now.
Thanks, Anilesh. Thanks for inviting me to moderate this very important session. And we have a stellar set of panelists here. While we call it a fireside, I think with these number of stellar panelists, I would want to benefit from their insights rather than putting anyone on the kind of a fire drill and quiz them. I think we want to benefit from these stalwarts who are here. Maybe I'll start with you, Rajat, on my extreme end. You are the president of IVCA. You're heading the largest VCP industry body with a pulse of capital flows and investment trends in India. Globally, network-based models have proven to unlock entirely new technologies and markets. Think of payment networks, what they did to fintech. In India, ONDC could be the next system-wide transformation platform. From your vantage point, give us a sense of where VC and PE money trends are going, how they're looking at India and platforms like ONDC, especially what are the opportunities within the platform in the next 2-3 years where your association members may be interested in?
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me to be here to speak on this. So just to, hi Sanjeev, welcome. So just to give you a little bit of a perspective of what the industry currently is, I think on average, the industry is clocking about $55 to $60 billion annually. And one of the research reports which we just printed clearly showed that 30% of this money actually went to commerce. And another 30% went to commerce tech. So a large amount of money is being, put across into this asset class, right? Coming back, yes, what the UPI did, for the payment world, the ONDC is going to be doing for the e-commerce world. So just like infrastructures erstwhile were about building roads, power grid lines, I think today's infrastructure, which has been built on the ONDC, is the one which we would like to leverage. I mean the investors would like to leverage. Now, if the highway is built, it's only that, it creates more channels and pipelines for opportunities to come on board. Connectivity is made simpler. And as soon as that's done, I think the majority of the cost, which probably Sanjeev is one of the best ones to answer up on these ones, will be addressed, and the VCs, etc., will start focusing on areas which are more for improvement and certainly making visibility more than actually building the infrastructure. So I'll stop in there because there are a lot of plans there. Thank you.
Thanks. Perfect segue for me to invite Sanjeev ji. You've built and invested in category-defining digital brands. Closed platforms have a clear customer funnel and monetization path. But the ONDC open model breaks that mold in terms of discovery, acquisition, retention, work. They all work differently. So from your vantage point, how does an open network change the customer acquisition, retention, and monetization strategies close to the closed platform? So give us your sense from where you're looking and investing.
I think, one thing we have observed and we have seen is that if you're running an open platform, then you better have a way to ensure the last mile is reliable. And that is where I think the challenge lies. The thing which a Zomato does, or a Swiggy does, or a Zepto does, or a Blinkit does, is that they are also in control and in charge of the delivery process. It's not just left to individual freelancers and small companies. And if you do that, then reliability may suffer, consistency may suffer, and that is a problem yet to be licked to the best of my knowledge. So if you're able to lick that problem, I think the open platform can do really very well. But the open platform was also, if there is a vendor, a service provider, a product provider, or a brand which does take charge of its own delivery, then the open platform can be very, very useful. But somebody has to take charge. You can't just let it be. It may not happen otherwise.
You identified a critical kind of enhancement, if I could put it that way, which is required in ONDC to start competing with other networks. You mentioned about the last mile, and I think, again, that's a perfect segue for me to invite Mittalji. SIDBI is the principal financing institution, established by the Act of Parliament to support and finance small and medium-scale enterprises. From where you sit, sir, what innovations like vernacular onboarding tool, voice-first customer, or last-mile delivery, how do you see that SIDBI financing the entrepreneurs or people who are trying to take advantage of ONDC as a platform? So give us a view of the principal financing institution for this sector as a whole.
Thanks. See, MSMEs, large numbers, I don't dwell into those numbers and kind of a credit gap which exists in the country, roughly 30 lakh crores of rupees. Instead of that, let me just, access to finance and access to market. These are two biggest challenges of MSMEs in the country, while ONDC takes care of access to market kind of a thing by providing this platform, and which is very, very interesting. But access to finance still remains a major issue. And both the things are interlinked. Access to market and access to finance, if they don't come hand to hand, there is a possibility that nothing will survive. Mm-hmm. And if you see the success of TREADS platform, which is again, interoperability is being discussed over there also. In the TREADS platform, there is a certainty of the cash flow to a large extent because the exposure is being taken on a large buyer, and payment comes at default rate are minimal in that. Transaction cost of about 0.5% per annum kind of thing. So those kind of things, ONDC certainly is creating that commerce. It's providing the number of transactions I was reading, and it's huge. It's 150 lakh per quarter, which is a big number. But probably there is a lot yet to be covered. And probably there is a lot to be learned from ONDC's success in the initial success. It's a lot of encouragement and to be replicated in case of access to finance as well. So ONDC platforms like ONDC and GEMS probably need to be better linked with the financial institution, and there is a dire need in the country for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you for those initial remarks. Let me now invite Natasha. you are a co-founder of Ankurit Capital. You invest in early stage startups in agri-tech and rural markets. We've seen a lot of these startups create a lot wealth creation for the founders, but for the value chain in tier 1 cities. But the tier 2 and tier 3 cities where ONDC could be a really transformational platform, from where you sit and the way you built your company, what's your sense where ONDC should focus?
Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be here at this panel discussion. Thank you so much, Ashwini ji, for putting this together. And when I talk about my fund, so we are an emerging fund. This is our first institutional fund, and I have been investing in the ecosystem for almost a decade, and it's a great honor to be a part of such a power-packed panel discussion over here today, where you have Mr. Anil Agarwal, who set the foundation for ONDC. Manoj ji over here, he is an institutional investor, LP in our fund. And Mr. Bikhchandani over here, I hope some of his Midas touch of investments rubs on over here, so the OG of investment. And Rajat has been like a very good friend for almost a decade. I started the VCPE journey along with him at IVCA, and now here with the fund. So just to give some context of our fund, we look at investing in startups which are leveraging the digital public infrastructure in India. And we feel that while Aadhaar has set the digital identity, UPI has set the payment gateway, and ONDC is now sort of reshaping that for commerce. And it's quite apt that we're talking about how the bazaar goes digital, because when I look at the stats for ONDC, almost 70% of the transactions are led by SMEs, which is a very big win for the SMEs and is a massive game changer for the digitization of SMEs. And while it's easy to be visible online, I think one of the main challenges is around the delivery and the delivery experience, which Mr. Bikhchandani rightfully mentioned, how that could be addressed with the ONDC ecosystem, what opportunities that put forth is going to be a game changer, especially how that delivery cost could keep coming down, and the consumer gets the price at lower and more. It's a win-win for a consumer, for a business who's sort of running a fleet management, and for a vendor who's selling his product. So ONDC is like a game changer and a win-win for all these three stakeholders. And I think when we talk about the logistic experience, some of the biggest transactions or majority of the transactions which we've seen which ONDC have been led through the logistic interface, where Nama Yatri, you have Ola and others, Magic Pin, have sort of led most of the transactions have been around the delivery experience. So I feel that there is some cost optimization which is sort of set to happen, and more innovation is set to happen. And the user experience is the most important, which I feel that ONDC is providing that level playing field for new businesses to look at new opportunities, and we are sort of moving away slowly. ONDC is providing an alternative from platform opportunities to more, SaaS opportunities, where everything gets more effective in terms of what a customer pays for and what a business sells for. So that's just a gist of how I look at ONDC shaping the ecosystem.
Thank you, and thanks for making your sales pitch as you're sitting on the stage. That brings me to Anil Agarwalji. You've been a career civil servant. You've seen this ecosystem evolve from last 2 decades, if not more. You've been in very critical positions shaping this at the start of ONDC and now with Competition Commission of India. Give us your sense of the journey ONDC had, the successes, but also where it didn't succeed. And from your vantage point, where it should move next. And take as much time you need.
Thank you. I think in a panel of investors, I am the misfit here. But since you asked me to trace the journey and, give an overview. See, we started ONDC with a very clear idea. This was conceptualized during COVID. You look at it from the seller's point of view, a corner shop, the corner kirana shop. If he was to sell or reach his goods to somebody who is in a containment zone, how would he reach that customer? And how does that customer reach him? Now it is this bridge that we were trying to build. And we thought if in the existing platform-centric world, a seller has to go and register with every platform to be visible on that particular platform. Can we create a system where a seller registers at some place once and he is visible to all the customers? So that was the concept on which ONDC was built, on open source, a network kind of an architecture. We started in 20, whole lot of iterations have gone in. It's been about 3.5 years. And honestly, if you ask me in one sentence, I would say that ONDC has not reached where I would have expected it to reach. All the members here have given a clear sense of what is missing. Vibhor is here, and I hope he's listening. The leadership of ONDC has just transitioned, and we hope that you take feedback from the stakeholders. Primarily, everybody is talking about the delivery experience. We are doing some research at IIT Delhi, and the primary finding is that the service experience to the customer and the availability of assortment is what drives quick commerce. The service experience. And the service experience is right from app design to conduct of the delivery person. Now this is the entire chain. There are 8-10 parameters in service experience. This entire thing drives loyalty to customer platforms, quick commerce, and availability of hyperlocal assortment, because every locality will have different kind of needs. So this is what is actually driving adoption and loyalty to quick commerce. Now, if I evaluate ONDC on this parameters, I think there is a lot of work that we have to do. I have been imagining, a common catalog. So if there are so many thousands of millions of products, can ONDC create a common catalog so that a seller doesn't have to create his own catalog? You just draw from that common catalog, and the seller has just to say that, okay, I have this item, I have these numbers, and this is my price. That's it. He doesn't have to do anything more. Can we reach this? Is it a utopian demand? Can a seller app do this? And I've been asking ONDC to create a seller app based on this. If you have a catalog which is about 100 MB to download every time, naturally it is not going to work. One. Second, grievance redressal. If you don't have a common grievance redressal, you cannot gain customers. Very simple. This is a very, very simple thing. You have to focus on grievance redressal, and you have to own the entire process. ONDC needs to own this entire process. If you don't own it up, you say the seller app will do it, or the buyer app will do it, or logistic app will do it. You can never succeed. You have to take ownership of that entire transaction from the customer to the seller. If you don't do this, you cannot succeed. The challenges are well known. Like, for example, here, if you talk to some, there are so many stakeholders here who are very, very important, who represent large bodies, and they are here because they want to be part of ONDC. They want to see ONDC succeed, and they want to take advantage of what ONDC can offer. Are we listening to their requirements? See, for example, I was thinking, you have a dark store. In a quick commerce, you have a dark store. In a dark store, you have so many different kinds of products available. And then dark store is very efficiently serving the localized needs. ONDC was conceptualized with this basic idea that the local pan shop should be able to serve the locality, the hyper-local needs. Are we serving that hyper-local needs? If not, what are the missing points? Like a dark store, can we conceptualize a local market as, a dark store? A dark store has, let's say, 10 different bays for 10 different types of products. A local shopping complex will have 50 different shops for 50 different products. Can we conceptualize that this one particular shopping complex is like a dark store who can serve the local needs? This is what ONDC was supposed to do. Unfortunately, we are focusing on too many other things. We need to be focusing on retail. I don't say you don't do mobility, but mobility was actually our inspiration from where we started ONDC. I think we are spreading our energies on too many domains and spreading our energies thin. Focus on one or two areas and then get the results. So this is what is my sense. We've been about 3.5 years. 3.5 years is not a short time. It's for good startups. Many of these, we see so many unicorns now coming up in 6 months and 8 months. So 3.5 years is a very good time. ठीक है?
सर 6 महीने में बहुत कम होती है.
You see, when you have this support of entire government of India, इतना सारा पूरा सब कर रहे हैं. मतलब unless you think big and bold, 3.5 years is not a small time.
No, I agree, sir. I agree with you. I mean, we have to solve the network problem.
Yeah. Then technology में हमको ये सोचना पड़ेगा. अब आप देखिए UPI में, when UPI does one transaction, there is a central server in UPI which does about 15 transactions. And that UPI does not leave it to individual banks to do those transactions. In ONDC is left to different components to do the transaction. And that is why we don't see from one end to the other. Can we solve these problems? I am asking some very fundamental questions. And I hope they are addressed. And grievance redressal, for example, logistics, for example, if we address them, catalog, for example, retail focus on, for example, if we do this, I'm sure, we built ONDC to be able to counter the biggest of the platforms that this world has. And there is potential. We can do that.
Thank you, sir. I think you've written the memo for the new board and the new management ONDC has to kind of put it for the meeting to brainstorm and agree on a pathway for the next 6 months, if not a year. With that, let me take it back to investors. We have LPs, investors, and fund managers, and people who represent large investor community. Give me one single most important agenda item you want to put on the board meeting of ONDC, next board meeting, so that you start looking at, meaning your community of investors start looking at ONDC in much more favorable way as it builds the whole ecosystem. So again, I'm going to extreme left, and be as candid and brutally frank you need to be.
So just like I'd mentioned, the ONDC is literally like the highway, and that's the infrastructure which is built. And now you want the highway without any potholes. By potholes, I mean any of the policy initiatives. So if they are stable and they are long-term, that needs to be kind of made sure that it's addressed.
I think, of course, there's a demand issue, definitely, with ONDC. And I still see a lot of startups, they struggle to come on board with on both the platforms. So if that could be streamlined, a lot of them are not even aware of what they could do in ONDC and how that's beneficial for them. So if that could be put across, and then to spur these startups to spend more and market themselves, if there could be some sort of incentive which they could get, which could drive them to go all out with their buyer app to the customers. I think that's what's primarily required. So if there's something which could be done on those lines also, that'll be very helpful.
Sanjay, please.
Yeah, I would go with what Mr. Anil Agarwal said. I think there was some serious words of wisdom there. There's focus. First thing is focus. So don't do 50 things at one time. do one thing, one big thing, and do it well. Then you can add a second, third, fourth after that, after you do it well. So let us say, hypothetically speaking, you say my goal is to ensure that the small local kirana store is able to also function like a dark store, and we will aggregate demand, and we will provide logistics support. And you can dice and slice this local market by local market. Pick one city first, let's say. Pick one city, pick 10 markets. So let's say horse cars market, because that's near where I stay. Horse cars market में मान लो 25 या 30 relevant दुकानें हैं. How do I convert those 25-30 relevant दुकान to come onto ONDC and provide local delivery support in a radius of say 5 kilometers? Right? And then I aggregate customers from there. Now, if you can lick that problem, and that becomes replicable and scalable around the country, at least in the big cities than the smaller towns, right? Maybe you're onto something. So I would say don't be global. You know, all this open network, a nice slogan, nice label, वो सब ठीक है, but that customer wants it in 10 minutes. Can you deliver in 10 minutes? If you can't deliver in 10 minutes, you can't compete with the others. Ultimately, the customer is king.
Yeah. No, you rightly said, you know, as they say, proof of the pudding is in eating. If people would be eating, then you're selling something good, and if you're not selling in the time and the pace and the quality, then you're out. Let me push a little further, Bhikchandanji, just one more element. Part of the story of reform is the institutional capability. You know, can the institution deliver the way it's structured, the way its flexibilities are, and otherwise it becomes very difficult to compete with the giants they are up against. So give us some suggestion on the structure or institutional strength of where it could be strengthened, ONDC, to deliver on what you're saying.
I don't know enough about ONDC as an institution and how it's structured and what the internal processes are, but I would imagine if you focus on geography, focus on category, focus on one use case first, you will then structure your organization and process around that, and obviously you will have to work the way the private organizations work, you know, which is people are empowered, people are capable, you have the resources, you have the technology, and you go out and do it. Yeah. But then you have to incentivize people also to work like that, which basically means I do not know if you can do it in government salaries.
I think one thing I'm picking from all these interventions is focus. Don't be everything to everyone.
अगर private sector से compete करना है, तो private sector का काम करना होगा. As simple as that.
Definitely. That brings me to Mithilji. Please give us your sense of one thing which you want to see change in ONDC for it to become the platform we all aspire it to be.
So this is something out of the personal experience, okay? SIDBI incentivize its employees and ex-employees with certain vouchers to buy from ONDC. And they did it twice. And I did I had a check with them. How many of them have gone back and bought again? None. None. So roughly 3,000 people, 1,500 first and 1,500 again. 3,000 people, they haven't gone back. They didn't find the experience very, very worthy of visiting again. There are issues, as Mr. Agrawal and Mr. Bhikchandani and other speakers have said. There is a direct comparison with the other platforms. The convenience of choosing the sizes, colors, return policies, follow-ups, delivery on time, everything appears to be an issue. This is out of personal experience of mine and so many other colleagues of mine. So that's where probably, you can take the horse to the water, but how do you make it drink? So we were forced, we incentivized, we sent people, we gave them good handsome amount of vouchers to spend on the ONDC, but it has not resulted in any kind of a repeat visits, repeat customers. So I think the customer experience has to be much, much better. This is not as a CMD SIDBI, this is as a kind of a common customer, I should say.
Thank you. And I think that's the most important part of it, how customers are relating to it. Please, Natasha, you want to add?
I just had a point to make since Manojji is here and we're talking about ONDC, sort of picking up on the demand side. I think with the SIDBI and the fund of funds, and there are so many funds which SIDBI is supporting. So there's a chicken and egg situation with the ONDC ecosystem where you don't have so many demand side apps or the seller side apps which have taken up in a big way. And a lot of startups are skeptical if we should be sort of doing the sort of marketing spends or not. But if we encourage the VCs to sort of look at this more seriously, have some workshops along with SIDBI, and sort of make it more mainstream to look at supporting this as an alternative commerce platform, network rather, it's not a platform. That will be very helpful to spur some investment into startups which are leveraging the digital public infrastructure, especially ONDC, while ours is very unique to focus on it. But I think slowly some of the other VCs are also waking up to the coffee and, you know, starting to realize the strength of India lies in this DPI ecosystem. And the government can sort of, with, of course, SIDBI support and some of the other government-led institution support, focus on this. I think some of the VCs will also be enthused to support these startups which are leveraging this ecosystem and look more seriously.
So, Natasha, maybe I could build on that. You kind of triggered a thought in my head with your intervention. Part of it is making the market, the social impact investors, and looking at the public good part of it. Are there investors out there which would be happy to see some commercial gains, some social gains, but help build this new generation of entrepreneurs joining this e-commerce bandwagon and building up their businesses?
Honestly, there's nothing like the ONDC anywhere across the world. India is the first of its kind to do this. And the issue with some of the VC mentality is that we always look towards the West to sort of see what are the models which have worked well over there and sort of look at something similar over here. But I feel that something with like ONDC, which offers a win-win to, like I said earlier, all parties, whether it's the buyer, the seller, or the service providers, it could be exciting to see a lot more, probably not big unicorns come out with the ONDC ecosystem, but a lot of smaller regional players, winners locally, which will come out, which will create a winning opportunity for even the investors, because investors can also have small wins, not such small wins, but I think India, if you put together, it's like the European Union, you know, we're like, while we are one country, but we're like so different. Each state is different from the other. So even if you have startups which are focused on different regions, north, south, east, west, northeast, I was just there a while back, you would have like so many winners which will be leading in that space. And, you know, that will give a lot of portfolio winners for a VC also. So it's very new. It's very uncharted, you know, so I think even for the VCs to get confidence, some more engagement with the ONDC and the other DPI ecosystems will be very helpful. You know, we are sort of building our own infrastructure at the end of the day, which could also go global. Next opportunity for ONDC is if it goes to Singapore or elsewhere, so these can be easily transported. The products can go global, you know, so I feel that that's a big opportunity, but it's a long way.
Yeah. Agreed. Maybe, Rajat, you could jump in here. So, you know, she talked about we, in a sense, borrowing the terminology, the frameworks of the West and how various VCs and PE funds look at from their vantage point. What has been your experience of, you know, Indian funds? And especially, you know, given, I would argue that our small entrepreneurs who are coming to ONDC with an expectation may have started, you know, may have a different vantage point. You know, if you look at Indian, as you say, Federation of States and the people who are trying to build up their business, or their social impact funds, which could look at this more favorably than the cutthroat VC, PE, where the competition is really, really bitter.
So as I mentioned initially, if you're looking at the investments in the country, 60% of the investments today are in commerce or commerce tech by this asset class. So clearly there's opportunity, and there's opportunity will always exist as long as we buy, eat, you know, any of that implication. There is investments going to be absolutely be taken care of that. You know, Natasha mentioned very well that, look, if the UPI can be today adopted elsewhere outside, right? Yeah, the ONDC can as well. Now, what forbids or what's not taking place at this current moment? Look, majority of our investments today come in from abroad. 85%, if you like it or not like it, 85% of my money is coming from outside. If it's not for SIDBI, I mean, SIDBI supported about 155 funds so that, you know, they can further invest into AI. So today, the domestic pools of capital are not there, right? So if we have to have this ownership, just a couple of hours ago, I was sitting across with our pension funds and so saying, what can be done? Until unless we don't adopt our own technologies, right? The others will quickly understand it, invest it, and we'll have to rebuy it later on. So time for us, our family offices, our LPs, our DIIs, DFIs to open up and also start investing into startups or into funds which are building for this ecosystem, right? Ultimately, we have the technology, we have the IPRs, right? So we don't want to lose it out to anybody. Tomorrow, ONDC is going to be built, it's going to be adopted elsewhere. Let's take pride in that and let's all put in effort, money, money secondary, effort, focus, like so said, focus comes first, networks come behind it, right? So that's how it'll happen. Yeah?
Sure. No, that definitely works. Sanjay, last word from your end. What would entice Indian family offices and HNIs and LPs of India to invest in folks which are trying to use ONDC as a platform?
So are you talking about invest in companies or invest in funds?
Funds and companies both. If
So
you
look, venture capital as an asset class typically has not found favor historically among Indian investors, which is why we have very little risk capital from India. But increasingly, as companies succeed, startups succeed, and there's a demonstration effect look, you can get handsome returns by investing judiciously in venture capital funds and in startups. You will find more and more coming. So that has begun already. But it's still not where it needs to be to satisfy our needs. It is still dwarfed by the flows from overseas. But that's because the flows from overseas also increased massively. So if you compare it to 20 years ago, yeah, there's a fair bit of Indian capital. But it's not nearly as much as is required. So I think the prospect of a return, right? Let's face it, there is philanthropic capital, there is semi-philanthropic or impact capital, and there is for-profit capital, right? Now the for-profit capital far, outnumbers. I mean, in terms of sheer amounts, it dwarfs the philanthropic and impact capital, right? And therefore, like it or not, you will have to create situations and frameworks and processes and regulations where, and markets where people earn a financial return, right? People also have to understand that, look, investing in early stage startups is a patient game. It's not as if you'll get a return in 2 years or 3 years.
Of course.
You have to recognize the fact that if you're investing in startups, you need to have a portfolio approach because startups are risky. So अगर आप 5 में करोगे, शायद 5 में 5 डूब जाएंगी. अगर आप 50 में करोगे, शायद 5 कामयाब होंगी. And then, and that's the whole concept of a VC fund, right? So you need some amount of investor education. You need some demonstration effect. You need some role models, and then hopefully more and more of it will come. Yeah. But most of all, you need time.
Yeah, definitely. Manoj, final word from your end. Your money sits somewhere between impact capital and the commercial capital, given the government mandate you have. And the way you invest as an LP, your experience in the startups which are on this journey, give us your final take. What have you seen which still gives you a lot of hope?
No, actually, it's not just that we sit somewhere between impact and the commercial capital. SIDBI has been there in this field for the last 25 years. And now what we have done, the learning is, we have started investing at the seed stage ourselves. So we are tying up with incubators and then, investing our own money. It's not out of fund for startups. So the idea is, let's create some 500,000 startups where we'll have a portfolio in few years to that. So small checks, but we are writing that checks. And in the process, we are educating those incubators also how to invest into startups. So we recently did a program. We are trying to create an AIF of the incubators also. So that we did this event at the Sahay in Mumbai, and encouraging them. And we again would be investing in them as well. So that's another ecosystem role which we are playing. And we have gone much beyond just through fund of fund, through our SIDBI Venture Capital Limited, and also through a venture debt program, which we are non-dilutive product debt, which you talked about. That's also a very healthy book of 500 crore we have already created. So this is something we are now kind of trying to give the full range of products and try to create a differentiator, and somewhere trying to give them the product to the market which are not existing in the Indian market as of now. So as a DFI, we are taking up those challenges on ourselves.
You know, that's really encouraging.
Yeah,
and
I'll just
inspiring.
add one thing here.
Please.
Look, my experience should be, and I have been on the VCIC, it expects a return. So it is not, ki bhai ye grant de diya, ab rakh lo. SIDBI is a savvy investor, and they expect a return, and rightfully so, and they should.
Definitely, if things have to compete with the cutthroat private sector players, one has to have that mindset that it's for money and not for charity, definitely. With that, let me get the final word from Anil Agarwalji. Anything you want to say in closing? And
No, so going forward, I mean, we all know what are the challenges. We know the path, and I would believe that ONDC is on the right track at doing all of those things that have been discussed here. And I am actually, very eagerly looking at some of these issues getting sorted in this quarter or maybe the next one, and looking at exponential growth of ONDC in terms of specifically focused areas of retail. And I mean, others I am really not concerned. I would say focus on retail. Just focus on retail. There are too many things to be done here. And if you crack retail, then your growth is going to be exponential. I remain very, very optimistic about the whole architecture and the team that we have. Thank you very much.
thank you. So 2 words, focus and go exponential. With that, let me invite, ladies and gentlemen, you all to give them a round of applause, please.
Thank you, Jagjit. Thank you for holding the conversation together and making us richer with a lot of thoughts. Now may I request Dr. Ashwini Mahajan to come forward and help us in felicitating the gentlemen, and especially young Natasha. So Shri Rajat Tandon, he is President IVCA. Natasha, co-founder Ankurit. Shri Sanjay Bikchandani. Shri Manoj Mittal, MD SIDBI. Shri Anil Agarwal, Member, Competition Commission of India. Shri Jagjit Singh Sareen, he is Area Chair Climate at CEI EU, and he is also Global Partner at Dalberg Advisors. Yes, is a new assignment. He is now India Head Dalberg. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's a custom of having a joint photograph. With this, we end this fireside chat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm taking this opportunity to thank valuable partners, Diamond sponsor NABARD, Silver sponsor PAGI and SIDBI, strategic partner ONDC, and the Shamlav Advisors.